grab the northern lights. Baby, you just kick your feet up while I kick back. I roll one with you by my side.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bold, Black, and Addicted to Bravo, because I am Bold, Black, and Addicted to Bravo. I'm your host, Nyemade, or that African butterfly on social media. And I'm so excited. I have some great guests with me today. And today's a bonus episode. We're not talking about a particular subject. We are recapping season 14 of The Housewives of Atlanta, which was a pretty good one, I think. So I can't wait to talk about it with the group. But first, would everybody like to introduce themselves? You're all in different orders. I know we're in different orders on each other's screen. Let's start with Rebekah, and Rebekah, you can throw it to somebody from there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebekah. I love Bravo, and I enjoy talking about the different things. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm Rebekah Travels, and I will pass it off to. I can't see right now. So whoever would like to go next.
I can go. So hi everybody, my name is Khera. I'm a makeup artist and beauty writer from Toronto. I love Bravo, all things housewives, love having conversations with people that are also housewives fans to kind of get into, different aspects of the show, kind of put a critical lens on things sometimes and just engage in conversation with people who enjoy the shows as well. I can throw it to, is it Reida?
Yep, that's right.
Reida. Okay. Cool. Reida.
Hi, I'm Reida. I live in Charleston, actually, so a place where a Bravo show is taped. I have been following Bravo probably for most of my adult life, honestly, and I really I love talking about it and conversing with people and connecting with people over it. And I work in the corporate world doing very boring work as a tax analyst, but this is kind of the part that I really love in my personal life, which is discussing Bravo and talking about Bravo and connecting with people over Bravo.
Nice. And last but not least,
I'm Kalyndee. I host a podcast with my best friend Josh called Housewives Heretics, where we recap old episodes of Bravo, and we've both watched Bravo since the beginning. I loved being Bobby Brown, flipping out, my life on the D-list, and I'm just still hanging on.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you all so much for joining me. I feel like I all of a sudden went really fuzzy. I'm trying out a new webcam, which is supposed to be better, but it just randomly made me super blurry. Let me. Okay. I'm going to switch to the computer, laptop. Thank you for those who are listening who this doesn't concern at all, but okay. It's much better. All right. So before we get started talking about the season, let me get your mind frame a little bit. If you had to be any of the Atlanta housewives, current Atlanta housewives, who would you be and why?
If you had to be one?
Yeah, like if you switch places with any of the housewives, like, or I guess, or you could just phrase that who's most relatable to you. Well, actually, no, I want to keep it the way it was. Who would you be? And
I would say Kandi.
You would say Kandi?
I would say Kenya, which is insane because I've never really liked Kenya, but I would be Kenya. I really loved her this season.
She was great this season.
Yeah, I would want to be rich like Kandi too.
Yeah. It's true.
The money helps. Kalyndee, what did you say?
Kandi,
yeah. See, and it's funny, and the reason why I went back to the original way I phrased it, which was who would you switch with, is because if I had to do like who was most relatable or who, I in theory would want to be, my answer would be Kandi, because I like the way she thinks and all that. But if it was just like who would you switch lives with, I would pick Kenya too, because I think it'd be fun to be a villain for a little while. Like, He
Mhm.
openly is just a villain and
Yes.
doesn't care.
She's so shady, and she did it
so
so
shady.
well this season. It was still, I mean, obviously a little mean girl, but it wasn't like the way it's been in seasons past with her.
Yeah, it just felt like just trolling fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Trolling.
I
Especially
loved
like
it.
at that the auditions for the fashion show, her and the assistant
Oh my
had me
gosh.
cracking up.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
We'll get to that, but on the subject of Sheree, one of the things when the season first started was Sheree and Drew had a little bit of drama about the rumors that the assistant was telling. The assistant was saying that Sheree doesn't pay her bills and that Drew's man is on the DL. What did you guys think about that?
I think they're both probably true.
Right.
I feel like Sheree basically admitted to it later on in the season that she doesn't pay.
Yes, she did.
Stiffed by Sheree.
Stiffed by
That would be a
Sheree.
good alternative.
Yeah, that's facts.
It's unfortunate. Like that's a rough reputation to have, I think.
It is, and like I remember, not to go to Beverly Hills, but when Garcelle got accused of that on Beverly Hills, it was like a big thing. I mean, obviously she was on all white cast, so I get the difference, but I was like, Sheree, you can't, I mean.
Yeah, and it happened too in Married to Medicine with Neela and Toya and stopped their friendship. So I mean, I think it's especially sensitive when you recommend somebody. Like
Lisa Nicole.
Yeah.
On Married to Medicine didn't pay Neela for her content.
I see, and that's the thing. I feel like it happens on the Black shows a lot, and I'm like, this is like, can we not lean into this theme? Just saying.
Yeah,
I think they just focus on it more.
Stereotypes are also stereotypes for a reason,
right?
But I also think that they highlight them because it's easier.
Yeah, because remember in New York, early days, Luann didn't pay for something, and Bethany had to cover the tab for surfing and their bar. And Shannon Bedore got drunk and left without paying their tab in OC. So they definitely do it. They just don't drag it out.
They don't get called out by their teammates as much as
exactly.
Except for on Beverly Hills with that Elton John party, but we'll get to that another episode. We'll get to that another episode.
That was deserved, but anyway.
Why do you think that Drew had so much smoke for Sheree for spreading the rumor about her husband when it was the assistant spreading the rumor?
Her shady assistant. I feel like that was the main reason why she kept listening to them.
You think that he triggered her to have, like, to put her anger towards Sheree instead of him?
I think that he fed into the rumors, and then along with, I believe that she was trying to help with her storyline this season as well.
True.
Yeah, well, I agree.
You could tell in the reunion when she called, or when Sheree called him or whatever, and he was very messy, like super messy. So, I mean,
I think there's an element too where, because if you go back to that episode where Drew actually finds out, people had to repeat themselves and say, no, like, it's not Sheree that said it, it's your assistant that said it, and she didn't catch it. But I think she almost didn't want to catch it on purpose and just kept focusing in on Sheree because Sheree is obviously on TV with her and Anthony is like not anybody, like in reference to the cast and in reference to being on this show. So I feel like she kind of kept it going for that reason. But she might have also just kept it going because she didn't want to get into it with Anthony like that and, you know, save it for getting into it with Sheree because she already had an issue with Sheree.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's that she latched on to the opportunity to have this like feud and storyline. You know, I mean, one of the slightly frustrating thing about the shows these days is that like everybody is trying to like self-produce their lines in their head and make up their own storylines instead of just like flowing with it, which can be frustrating because I feel like it's very obvious when they do that. And Drew is a classic example Because the girl doesn't even have a dog, so why does she have dog treats in her bag? Like, you are trying too hard. you traveled with dog treats in your bag just to have that moment. Come on.
When they played that clip back at the reunion, she literally had her hand in her face in her hands because she was so embarrassed.
As she should.
And you should be. Because what was that?
Ridiculous.
Extra. Yeah.
Beyond. What do you think about the rumors, though?
I mean, I agree with Kalyndee. I mean, it could be true. And if it is, so be it. Like, that's his preference. That's who he is, that's who he is. But I mean,
I have more of an issue with the cheating. Like, I don't care who you're cheating with. Like,
well, right, exactly. Yeah. He was literally such a gaslighter with her. I could not deal with him this season. I was like, it was almost, I don't want to say it was worse than the Tampa thing last season, but he was pushing me. Like, I just was like, I can't with this man. Like, why are you? Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I feel like gaslighting has been really overused lately.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he really was actually gaslighting her, though. He was doing it.
Yeah.
There were just so many things that he said, and I really truly believe this man believes the things that he says. Like, this is the problem that I have with him. Like, I'm like, I don't think he is self-producing himself. I think this is how he is, and that's troubling, like, for her, in my opinion.
Right, and the gaslighting, I think he does have narcissistic tendencies, which again is another word that's misused. But in this situation, it very much fits him, and the gaslighting fits the whole situation. And the way that he just doesn't see anything wrong with what he does, and it's like right. And when you call him out on it, it's like, how dare you, like, not think that I'm perfect. I love when she was like, I don't think he gaslights me. And they're like, you know what it means? And then they gave her the definition, and she was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah. And I don't think that he has like some affair long-term with a man somewhere down the street. Right. I think he's just a guy that has such a big ego that he'll get with anyone. Like, he'll let anyone,
Yeah.
That's a very fair point.
That's what I think too. Drew brought in a new friend to the show, and I liked her. How did you guys feel about Sonia?
I loved her mom.
Oh yeah,
that was fun.
Her mom and dad were like the best. They're a vibe.
I feel like this pause makes me feel like you guys aren't feeling her. I liked her.
I didn't realize that's the friend you were talking about, because I don't.
Yeah,
it's true. I was like, wait a minute, are we talking about Sonia?
True.
I liked her, but I don't know. Like, I liked her very much in the beginning, I think, and then there were moments with her that I was like, she lost me a little bit, but
I really like Sonia. Personally, I like her story. I like her background. I'm from the Caribbean. My family's from the Caribbean, so I loved seeing that on the show, like the culture and everything. I thought was awesome. But yeah, similar to Reida, there were a few things where I was like, Sonia, like, I don't know about that. I don't know. However, I'm looking forward to seeing her again next season and maybe see what she's learned, or maybe see, because it's not like she hasn't done reality TV before, but I just wonder if she was kind of still getting her bearings with a cast that's as seasoned as everybody else.
What did she do before?
She had
her own show.
She had her own show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it, but she did have her own show.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, they commented. So I saw that somewhere. Maybe somebody, like one of the fan accounts or blogs or whatever, commented that she had been on a show before, or maybe she said it. I don't remember, but
yeah, I think both. And I think it's so hard in Housewives, especially because not only do you have to fit in with the other women, but the producers play such a key part. And I think your first season, you really get manipulated by the producers the most. So it makes you seem so wishy-washy and all over the place. And then once you see it cut, you see how they're working, and you can start, realizing how the game goes.
And you can see what role they play.
Because I even think, for example, the whole issue with her like having an issue with Drew, I don't really feel like that's even like a real thing. I almost wonder if producers were like, you need to give us something, like come up with something.
Yeah.
Because like as of right now, like you haven't given us anything.
I
And
think
then
they love to have the people who bring you in fight with each other. Like, I
They
mean,
do, and I hate that because, like, in that, for me, I'm all about loyalty, and it's like,
Me too.
not that you have to like kiss my ass forever, but it's like, if I brought you in, have some loyalty to me because we're
Mhm.
friends before all of this. And so, like, especially when they reach out to the person's, as Melanie would say, their ops to, to talk to, then it is like extra shady. And like, sorry, I keep referencing Married to Medicine, but it's my favorite show right now on Bravo. But
So good.
with Toya and Mila, and like the minute she had a fight and she went to quad, and like that, out of all the people you could have went to, like to me that was like, okay, you're being shady. Like you just want the storyline of not getting along, because if you actually cared about your friendship, you would have went to Simone, who's also friends with Toya, but you didn't.
Right.
So in this case, I feel like it's kind of the same. But I also, given what like has been said and how they feel about stuff, I almost don't even get how they were really friends before, to be honest. Like, just because of like the way Sonia thinks and carries herself. And then there's Drew. And so I feel like I'm sorry, can you tell I'm not a huge Drew fan? And I just feel like the way she, like, I kind of get Sonia being annoyed with her and not like really gelling. Yeah.
I don't think they were really friends though. I think it's the whole housewife situation where they have you labeled as a friend as a way
they're
to
not
like bring
actually
you into
friends.
the cast. So I don't think they were really friends. I think they may have been acquaintances and known each other.
See, that's what I thought too. But then when she got in the accident, she called Drew.
I feel like that was a setup with producers. I really didn't think that was like who she called first.
I think we are all so in this and jaded by Bravo that we are all like, it's the producers. And I don't disagree. It is. Like, I just think every single time, I feel like even if something was genuine, maybe on the show, we might still think it was produced. Like, because that's how I think if you're new to it, you don't think about it as much, but we've just seen so many seasons and so many storylines that I'm like, oh, I think everything's produced as well. There's moments where you can tell it is a little more genuine than not, and I do think, honestly, like Atlanta, Potomac for sure, like some shows like that, I feel like it's less than like Beverly Hills or Salt Lake City or whatever, like those other ones, some of the other ones, it feels different. Even New Jersey, I don't think is as produced as some of the other heavy shows that are more with more white casted shows. Basically, I feel like the women are. It's very different.
A weird dynamic because it's they're produced to have more drama, and it doesn't feel as much like that happens in like an Atlanta or Potomac. But they still bring the drama. But I feel like the reason I like watching those is because they are drama, but they're also hilarious. Like they keep it moving. Like they fight and they move on. But it's like with the other ones, like they're like, this is the storyline for this season, and we're gonna talk about this all season. It's gonna be super dramatic, and they can't just ever let anything go. They can't like curse each other out and then go out for drinks later, like the other cast can.
Yeah, and Atlanta led the way
because they don't want what's really going on to be on the show.
That's right.
That's
Khera.
why.
That's exactly right. They don't. What did they say? Lisa Rinna say, "Don't talk about the husband. Don't talk about."
You know, why is he always in Canada? Why is he always up here? That's what I want to know.
I think we all.
Where's he at?
I mean, and I think people sometimes forget, like, there's so much editing. Like, there's so much. I was watching one of like the fan comments on something because I guess on one of the recent Beverly Hills episodes, Erica was in therapy, and the person was like, I was watching her computer, the time thing on her computer screen, and she's like, it kept jumping all over the place. And so you could really see how, and they're like, I wonder how that therapy session really went when it wasn't edited to look like the way it was. And like, you can change the whole conversation with the right editing.
Definitely.
So sometimes when people blame the editors, people go, don't blame them. I'm like, it's true though, because I don't know if you ever watched Vanderpump Rules, but one of the editors later came out and said she didn't like Sheena, so she purposely had her edited to look bad. And it worked. People did not like Sheena because of the horrible editing of her.
That makes sense.
That
That
really
totally
does.
makes sense.
Yep. Now it was interesting that because Sonia had a little bit of beef with Marlo, but then they came back from it. Or no, it was Sheree when they went on the thing because Sheree felt like she was left out. But they were able to talk and move past it, but not with Kenya. Like, what do you think was up with Kenya and Sonia?
I feel like Kenya felt like she may have been coming for her, especially when they had the whole scene with talking about how, oh, you know, you need to bring someone on the trip. Like, I just felt like, how are you going to tell someone who to bring? Like, you can let them know they have a +1 invite, but to make it seem like she had to. And Kenya was just like, really? Like, she felt like the ladies were trying to push on her to try to move on. And she's still dealing with the stuff she's dealing with Mark.
And I think I felt like Sonia really just pushed it being more like not bringing a friend, but bringing like a romantic partner or something. And I was like, what is she? It was very forceful in my opinion. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, why is she like literally just in here on her about this? And obviously that's been a very touchy situation with Kenya because her marriage was so volatile. And we got to see some of that on television, obviously. So I'm just kind of like, boo, you're new. And it's Kenya. Like, I mean, for drama's sake, sure, it was, you know, an interesting thing to see, but it just was very, it just didn't make any sense to me. She seemed so like set.
Yeah. I think part of it is because, I forgot the exact timeline, because I know by the time they had the trip, she was like, she's on strike 3 with me. I think like, because remember she was talking to her, I wish I could remember what the conversation was about, but Kenya hung up on her. And I think like that's when she started being like, F this beef.
Sonia was explaining the trip. And she kept saying it's a couple's trip, it's a couple's trip, it's a couple's trip. And Kenya was like, girl, get off your hands. And hung up on her.
That's why she hung up on her.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like Sonia wasn't familiar with the show too, because I feel like Kenya's had issues with relationships on the show and people saying that she's bringing a fake man or different things like that from like earlier on seasons before she was even married. So I just felt like the whole couples trip aspect, I feel like is a touchy subject for Kenya. And on that call, she kept pushing it and pushing it. So I would have hung up too.
I understood. I would have been like, look, like, what are we talking about here? Like,
right. Okay, yeah, I can see it from that viewpoint. And then last thing on Sonia, so the thing with her hubby and the baby, what were your thoughts on her not wanting to have a second kid? And then and also Drew's thoughts on why she should. Did you have opinions on that?
Drew's brainwashed. Like, I can't.
As a parent, I could relate to what Sonia's concerns were. And I could tell, like, even like in that scene when she was at Brooklyn's party with her son, you could tell she was getting a little bit frustrated with her child there. Like, it was overwhelming for her. So I can see how she feels overwhelmed. And then with her husband being away a lot of the time and it all falls on her, she didn't want to introduce another child into it because that's more work on her. And from the show, we don't know if she has a nanny or it doesn't look like she has help, even though her family is there. So I totally understood what she was saying, that something needed to change for her to want to have another child. And with Drew, I feel like since she has all these assistants to help, her logic is just flawed. I'm just like, it's just flawed because I'm like, just because your husband wants to, I guess because you have help, it makes it easier. But I'm like, for those of us who have to do it all the time, sometimes you're just like, it's rough.
Yeah, I am not a parent, but when Drew was talking, I was like,
I think Sonia had I think she had some valid concerns, especially if she felt like, you know, the support was lacking with the first one. Like, I can't have a second and then still have, you know, a lack in support and not feel like we're a team in this and you're always gone and I'm always doing everything on my own. So that's I can imagine that's a very overwhelming feeling. And I think Drew just that perspective, it's like you can tell she does a lot of things she doesn't want to do because she thinks that that's just what she's supposed to do as a wife, and you're just supposed to make your husband happy. But I mean, like you're doing it, and Ralph is still like sketchy as hell. So
That
like
part.
I don't get how that's working. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't really
Nope.
think that works. So I don't trust her perspective there on that.
Yeah, Drew lives in a very misogynistic world. She really bows
Definitely.
down to the men. And I think that's even with her and Sheree, with Anthony. I think she just tends to bow down to men.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I completely
point.
agree. And not to get on my soapbox, but it's a soapbox subject for me, is because like you said, she very much lives in a misogynistic world where everything is to be catered to the man and like what they want and what makes them happy, and your happiness should derive from making them happy. And I don't really like to squash other people's way of living if it works for them and if it truly makes them happy. Like I couldn't do it, couldn't be me, but if it makes you happy, do that. But then also understand that that's not how it works for everyone. And also that's really not how it should work for everybody. Like you shouldn't just do this because this person wants you to, even if you don't want to, especially when you're talking about children. I think a lot of people have drunk the Kool-Aid that just because you're a woman and you have a uterus, you must want to be a mother. You must be like, you must naturally be like wonderful at mothering. Like that's not true. Just like how some guys are naturally good dads and some aren't. It's the same thing for women, and not everyone wants kids. I'm speaking as someone who's very open about the fact that I don't want kids. I love kids. I think they're adorable. They're so much fun. I love giving them back to their parents. It's the happiest time of my life.
Absolutely.
Because I am selfish. Like I love my alone time. I love not worrying about other people. I love when it's quiet, and like people make it seem like there's something wrong with that when there isn't, because the truth is there's a lot of people who feel like me who have kids because they're like Drew, like, oh, this is just what I'm supposed to do. Like
What you should
do it. And I feel like you can, for me, I can always tell a very domestic person who loves that life and who's happy with it and one who isn't. Because usually if I say like, oh, I don't want kids, I'm not sure about marriage, like I like being free, even if I'm talking to someone like married, kids with a very traditional life, they'll be like, oh, okay, like I love my life, or you know, like things are great here, blah blah blah. And they're like, you should think about it, or you should whatever. But if you're talking to someone who's really just doing it because they're forced to and didn't really want to, they get so mad when you say like you don't want to do those things. Like it's almost like they're like, if I have to and I don't want to, why do you get to opt out? Like that's just what you do. You're supposed to do this, so you do it. You don't get to live this life you want. It's like, no, we can all live this life we want. Like you don't have to succumb to it. So
Agree.
that's my Drew.
Totally.
But and like Drew, I don't remember what it was, but she did something like that first season too. Forgot what the topic was, but that really is part of my, I don't want to say anti-Drewness, but it definitely makes it harder for me to root for her because she's so
easy
like
to just not like. I don't know
what
it is about
because
her.
I wanted to like her because I liked her. Like I was excited when I found out she was going to be on the show because she's an actress and I knew her from other stuff. It's like, oh, she's going to be great.
Overall, I don't mind Drew, and I think she's entertaining in many ways. I think because of some of her perspectives, and also even when she was like arguing with Sonia, I could tell she is like so frustrating when you're arguing with her because she can be super condescending and passive aggressive. I find it entertaining. But yeah, I don't mind her, but I completely understand why someone wouldn't be a fan of her at all.
Yeah. Like I think if I step back and and I probably will, like the way I did with Heavenly, like at first I really couldn't stand Heavenly. But when I stepped back and stopped thinking of her as a person and just saw her as entertainment for TV, she became like one of my favorite characters because she's so messy and ridiculous. So I think if I just step back and just embrace Drew's ridiculous side, I will enjoy her for viewing purposes.
I agree. She's definitely Heavenly on Real Housewives of Atlanta, like without a doubt. That's a perfect description.
And you need those people. I always am like, I'm always surprised when people are like, I hate this person, get them off the show. It's like, you need antagonists on a show, right? Like you like everybody. Everyone can't be wonderful. So it's, for me, even characters I don't like, it's like, well, at what level do I not like them? Are they like truly horrible and really problematic where they need to be gone? Like I tuned into Real Housewives of Orange County this year for the first time in forever. And there was this new girl, Noelle.
Oh.
Anyways, she was annoying, but the way she blatantly lies, you had to go, because how can you deal with someone who lies like that? Like, it makes it very hard. But someone like Drew, who's just like slightly obnoxious and throwing dog bones, it's like, all right, you can keep her. She annoys me, but
you can stay.
Yeah. The only thing about Drew, though, is I feel like she is always manipulated. Like, I think she's a little delusional, where Heavenly is her own person leading her own crazy charge. I feel like Drew is always on the manipulated end and, fighting someone else's battle.
Yeah, that's true.
Heavenly knows exactly what she's doing at all times.
Yeah. So going back to someone who she had issues with, which was Sheree this season. What did you guys think about Prison Bae?
Honey.
Oh, Tyrone.
That didn't live up to the hype that I thought it would be.
No.
The reveal. It did not.
What a disappointment. I feel bad. I don't know how Sheree, I don't know what it is about Sheree, because I've been Team Sheree since season 1. I don't know what it is. She's my girl, but that girl's a mess. Like, but it's like, you shouldn't be though. Like, you're like beautiful. You have like, even like with her fashion line, like, why is it this disastrous? You have money. If she didn't have money, and maybe it's because she doesn't like to pay, but it's like, if you didn't have money, I would understand. But if you gave me her budget, I could put together a fashion show so quickly. Like, I just don't understand how she's so bad at this stuff.
I don't think she has the best work ethic either.
That's what I was going to say.
That part.
And
I don't think she likes to work
either. I don't think she wants it either, because if she really did want it, just like I saw advertised the other day, Kevin Hart is combining with Fabletics, just like Lizzo did with her Yitty brand. Sheree could have done that, and that's very easy. She didn't have to do anything. She could have just partnered with someone, have her name on it, get paid whatever percentage of it. So I really honestly don't think that she really wants to do it. Like, she's doing it because people are pushing her, because in all honesty, she could have done something. Even Heavenly, now that we're talking about Heavenly, after that episode where she said her, whatever she said, I can't even think of it right now. She had shirts already come out when she had her little YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So I just feel like Sheree doesn't want it, because she could have had her stuff launched on time. She doesn't want it.
I think you're right. And I think that like, more attention needs to be paid to that. Like, we don't all have to want to work all the time. Like, I think a lot of people have dreams of like doing things, A, because they want that money, and that B, like, we're all told like that's what, like, you should always want to be hustling. You should also always want to be better and do more. And I'm really just coming, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I'm like, you know what? It's okay to just like chill and just want to live a life that makes you happy. Like, just have like work, and find like work that makes you happy, not one that makes you want to like pull your hair out like my day job. But like, find work that makes you happy and that you enjoy, and like, just go through life. And I think if you can get that without doing the other stuff, if you're not overly ambitious, like, that's fine. And I know like with the Southern Charm guys, they got a lot of flack for not having jobs. And trust me, the Southern Charm boys are a whole nother issue in and of themselves. But in this particular one, I get it. You're on a show where you're making like what, 30, 40 grand an episode probably, which is what a lot of people make in a full year. So times that by 10, like, how much money do you really need if you're not trying to be super rich? So of course they're not working, because like, if you don't care about what other people think, then you just make that money and you chill, at least until you decide like what you want to do. But I know a lot of people care so much what other people think that they're like, oh, I have to have this. Like, I think if people weren't pushing Sheree, I think she would have let it go. She doesn't care.
Yeah, she would have. Well, and she's on a show with like Candy, and I feel like to be on Atlanta is a different situation than being on some of the other shows. Like, there's some success at the Atlanta level that I don't think some of the other shows have.
Mhm.
So like Kandy's just kind of like, to me, I would feel, the problem is that she made She by Sheree a storyline a decade ago.
Right.
And it's now the storyline again. And you're also in a situation where you have some successful people on the cast. So I guess the question, you're sitting there kind of wondering, okay, we have these people on your cast, you know, that are your friends, and you have this idea that has been out here for literally 10 plus years.
Mhm.
How have you not done anything with it? And like you all are saying, it's because she really doesn't want to. And so, but now it's a storyline, so you don't have a choice. Like it's just not. And so now she's in a situation where honestly, I wonder what it looks like for next season, what this is even going to look like, because she's put on, you know, her logo on Shein, whatever, crapola or whatever.
Which is what a lot of people do. I just feel like
which is fine.
Just admit it.
Really
Yeah.
good assistant. Get yourself a really good assistant and just let it ride. Like people do drop shipping businesses all the time.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely. And it's lucrative. It can be very lucrative. So like make the money. And if that's my point, like I don't think she just should have done this the laziest way she could have, but she didn't. And so now it's like a whole thing. And I'm like, and so now it's going to be, I'm not saying it's hard to walk it back. She's just going to have to walk it back. There's no, it's not like,
I don't see that she is. She won't walk it back.
Yeah, that's why she came
check me,
out
boo.
with it. Exactly.
then
I think
I can't wait till next year.
Yeah. And I think that
I think
every
she's too
housewife,
prideful for that.
yeah, she definitely
Go
is.
ahead.
Yeah. She's so prideful. And almost every housewife has been approached with some kind of deal by someone, and then they act like that it's their passion. Like, I've loved wedding dresses forever. And that's kind of what happened to Sheree 10 years ago. But she can't draw, she can't sew, she can't do anything, but she's still so prideful that she's 10 years later still trying to make it work, instead of just saying, oh, the designer came to me and said, do you want to collab and make a line? And just letting it go.
Because even if she did that, I'd still be like, okay, Sheree. I love that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. She has a bit, people were so excited to buy this product. She had built-in customers. She has a platform. I'm like,
she was one of the first. She was one of the first housewives actually to try to market off of the housewives.
Oh, the money she could have been making is insane. And even the money now she could make if she got herself completely all the way together. I'm sure someone has told her, but I just look at it and I watch the episodes at the end and I was like, the dollar signs that I was just like, and people on Instagram talking about, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. Da, 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 da. I'm like, this is what people who just want to be entrepreneurs without the platform want to do. You have it built in.
That's what kills me. That's what kills me a little bit, is I'm just like, I would kill to have the money to do a clothing line. Like I actually have sketches. I have a whole design thing in my head, and it's just like, you have it and you're just flopping it. And it's
Sheree wears clothes. That's it. Like it's like, I mean, she's just wearing clothes. Nobody's designing clothes. Like she's not really doing that.
Well, she doesn't want to listen to advice either. Like she doesn't want to listen to anything anybody has to say. Because I don't know if she and Kandy have ever had conversations off camera. They might have, but the fact that it's season 14 and Kandy is just now giving her advice on camera, I was like, how? When Kandy is like, she has such business acumen, how could you not have like reached out to her to get some sort of insight? She's done so many things. She's the perfect person to, I don't know.
I think it goes back to that pride thing, is the like,
or Kenya.
Pride. I'm just and you're right. It is pride. I can't. It's so strange to me that like she's had this money in the bag for 10 years and has not opened the bag to take it out.
Yeah. What was Kenya's other? Did Kenya really have a storyline this season besides beefing with people? I mean, she was hilarious, but
her hair care. I mean, they did talk about her hair care, like getting into CVS.
Yeah, that was impressive. Proud of her.
Yeah, which is actually happening, which happened and is actually happening. And I believe I've seen it. So I'm kind of like, oh, it's real. This is not a She by Sheree fake out. So
and it makes sense. Like some of these people, it's like they want to profit off of it so bad they don't really stop and think. And it's when you lean into what works and what you're known for on the show is when it works the best. Like Bethany Frankel doing Skinny Girls after having a couple seasons of ordering her Skinny Girl margarita made total sense because we had all seen it. Kenya, we talk about her hair all the time. So Kenya's hair care makes total sense. Even in Beverly Hills, Kyle having her store made sense because she loves her Miu dresses. And like it all works. And it's like Drew coming in with her fitness line when we've never seen her talk about fitness, do anything with fitness, and also admitting that she got surgery. Like, come on, girl. Like you can find a way to link you and something profitable in a way that works, where people are like, oh, okay. But I think people also don't. I think people want to self-produce and they want to do certain things, but they don't always have the business mind for it. And definitely, I know I'm going to say the K word and people hate them, but I learned branding from a young age from the Kardashians. I used to watch the show, right? And I remember it's always stuck out to me. There was an episode where the kids were making fun of Chris because she was getting older, and she would laugh, and every time she laughed, she tinkled a little bit, right? And so they talked about it for the episode, and then she came back and she's like, oh, well, I got a deal with this company that makes the pads for adults who tinkle. And I realized from watching the show that that's what they will do frequently. I remember when Kylie and her lips, I had stopped watching the show at that point, but I do remember for a while, all of a sudden, everyone was talking about Kylie's lips and was she sucking on a thing or was she doing this stuff or blah, blah, blah. And then boom, Kylie had a lip line and it sold out. And I think that people who really have that business mind know how to not push a product at you right away because you see the product. They get you invested in whatever that product is, but from their real life. And then they push it at you, and now you've been thinking about it, it's on your mind. So you're more likely to embrace and want it.
I agree. I mean, so many people have done that on Bravo and done it very successfully. Even the ones who I would call some of the laziest of the lazy, like you mentioned, the Southern Charm Boys. And I mean to tell you, that is literally what is going on down here. That pillow business was a joke. And Craig had former classmates who came in who were business-minded people and invested and put that business. He does not do anything, folks. Spoiler alert. He literally does nothing. He is the face. And that
rules everything around me. Cash rules everything.
Absolutely.
And like I said, as someone who's very entrepreneurial minded, broke as a joke, it kills my heart because it's if you would give me just some of the money, I can, especially that's part of why I love Kandi, because she does so much. But part of that is because she has the money to do so much, right? You take money from one project and pour it into another project. And it's I think, especially for those of us who are entrepreneurs, it's you just need that one thing, especially for us who have multiple hands and multiple pots. It's I just need one thing to kick off so then I can give the others the attention and money that they need. So it's hard watching it sometimes, but it's also wonderful watching it sometimes and encouraging, when you do see a Kandi who's doing all of those things, and how she, for me, especially, how she doesn't let the fact that she has a sex toy line affect the fact that she's also a producer, because people really like to box people in. And I appreciate that she's you're not boxing me in, you're not going to make me just have this one lane. I'm in multiple lanes, which I like.
Yeah, she's multi-talented in that arena, and it's very inspiring, very inspiring. Yeah, she's one of my favorites for that reason.
Me too. What did you think about, well, two things: the conversation about the condo, Todd's condo, and then also the conversation about the trust and who was going to be in charge of it and how that was going to divvy up.
Oh yeah,
those are interesting to me. What did you guys think?
I think it was hard to watch some of it because I feel like it's hard when you're talking about money. And I think with the one scene, especially when Kandi was trying to explain it to her mom, and her mom's like, oh no, I need to be in charge. Because, she was saying she wanted Don Juan in charge. So I feel like it's definitely hard. And I felt like they weren't taking into account that, yes, Riley is her child, just her child, but she has two other children too. And so they're a factor into her solo pot. Just like Todd has a separate child, plus he has these two. So they also have those that they've had together, those two children that are a factor in the pot too. So now that they have more, they each technically have three children, that they have to account with them as well, because I feel like some of it was thinking like Riley's thinking about, oh, X, Y, and Z money for her, but you have siblings that they will require money too. And God forbid something happens while they're still young. Someone still has to take care of them, provide for them. And the money's supposed to hopefully last you enough to like live a life. Whereas now, you know, some of them are spending it as quickly as they get it. So, and it's gone. So I did understand Todd's point, and sometimes I feel like it's produced to make him look bad in some aspects. But I do feel like they need to work on how they communicate, because it is hard when you talk about money.
Yeah, I think they're just some of the hardest conversations in general, you know, when you talk about money and that kind of stuff, because that's why everyone in a family fights when someone dies. You know, everyone goes crazy because it's just such a sensitive, vulnerable topic. And to have cameras in there when they're like newly discussing it, it's just tough. Like no matter what either one of them said, I feel like you could pick it apart and you couldn't win, you know?
Sure.
That's why I get mad when people say Candy doesn't bring anything. I'm like, yes, she does. No. You don't only have to be screaming all the time to bring something. Like Candy brings a lot.
Candy brings a lot.
She does. A lot. Just by her being there, to me, she just really brings a lot of storyline. And also, like,
she's worldwide.
Yeah, she is.
She does too. Hello.
And you can get that shirt too.
Exactly. Hello. There you go. Already branded. Like that's the thing about Candy. I get that they're like, lots of people criticized her this season about not having quote unquote a storyline or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, but she is truly, you have to have also some people who are grounded in what they are doing, and like, so that you can watch real world things happening in their lives. And to me, like her and Todd, I personally really love them together. And I think it's interesting how they both parent very differently, and how they view the parenting and the children. And clearly you can tell Riley has been parented completely differently than Kayla was, obviously. And then I think it's going to be a mix with, you know, the two younger ones, obvious for sure. But I think they bring a lot, both of them together. I like their storyline when they have things that they're doing together, like whether it be business or they're talking about family situations. I think that's a great storyline. We need still some of that storyline on Atlanta. It can't all be drama with, you know, clothes and like whatever else, like whatever other things or random things that somebody said to somebody about somebody's husband or whatever. There needs to be a grounding storyline. There needs to be those grounding storylines too. And I feel like that's what Candy has brought. And I know people criticize her because like, she needs to get off the show. They need more people. Her salary's too big. And I'm like, do you understand? Like some people come and watch this show just because of her. Like and she's been, and she's been on this show since almost the beginning. Pay her money. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like that's how I feel.
And I think she does bring it to the show.
I think so too. Yeah, I personally I love Candy, and she's been one of my favorites from the very beginning, and a big reason why I was drawn to the show, because I started with Atlanta. I didn't start with any other franchise. I started with Atlanta. A big reason was because I was like, oh my gosh, like that's Candy, you know, and I started watching it. And I think what remains about Candy that is not the same for a lot of other women, especially across all different franchises, is that when you're following Candy, you're actually following her real life, like what she actually is doing. Before she was a songwriter, so you got to see more of that, but then she's branched out. You got to see her, you know, create her sex toy line or do this or do that. And so it's a lot more authentic in terms of what you see versus what you might see from somebody else who's kind of fabricating a storyline. I don't think Candy's ever done that, but because she also has a team, and then she also has family issues, and then she might have issues with her friend group, there's so much like floating around her that she doesn't really run out of story at all, because something pops off somewhere for her. And so I think just because she's not always cussing or getting in somebody's face or whatever the case, people assume that she doesn't bring anything to the show. But even her conversation with Todd about the trusts, the conversation about the condo, I personally didn't really see what the issue was with the condo. I get somebody else like lived there, but that was like, they've been together for 10 years. That was like over a decade ago. It's like such old news at this point, you know, put some paint and renovate it. It's like a brand new place, and you guys can afford to do whatever you want.
Exactly. Airbnb.
Exactly. So there's that. So yeah, I absolutely love Candy, and I'm looking forward to seeing her again. And
Yeah.
I think Mama Joyce too, even though
Mama Joy.
she's so difficult, she does bring something as well. So it's like you
Mhm.
put her in a scene with Candy, like that's already like 5 minutes of entertainment because she's
I want someone to
just
make
like
like
a difficult
ultimate.
woman.
I want someone to make like an ultimate reality moms.
That's
You
my
know, they do like
dream.
the ultimate road trips. Like I
Yes.
want
That would be
Mama Joyce.
hilarious.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
want Wanda from Love and Marriage
And
Huntsville.
Marriage Huntsville. Oh my
Wanda's
gosh.
cray cray, and I want Mama D from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Like I would like to just see those three together.
Yes.
BICTH.
It would be
Do you
amazing.
remember that?
Hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
Yes.
And
But
like
yeah,
back to your,
oh god.
oh no, I was gonna say too, like when we were talking about Candy's storyline, how she was talking about the financial aspects. I thought it was important to talk about because many Black families don't have set up trust, and like
Factors.
people don't talk
Mhm.
about the issues that after Chadwick Boseman passed, that their family had to, even Prince, a lot of these celebrities, and even regular people who don't have things set up financially, and how it takes a toll on their families. So I felt like it was a good conversation that they had to open up the dialogue of things that you need to do and set up before
I
something
agree.
happens, just in case.
The Black
And
I
community.
agree. I am all for it. Like
Yeah.
broke as a joke as I am, I'm still all team prenup. Like from the
Mhm.
beginning, I feel like these conversations need to be had. And I get, like you're in love, which is wonderful. But like the marriage, when you sign your marriage license, also is a contract, and it's like with government and all of that stuff. And yes, you hope that everything is fine, but you don't know. And so it's better to negotiate those things, I feel like, while you're in love before you don't like each other. And then same thing with the trust. Like you don't want to wait until somebody is gone to try to figure out what to do with the money. So it's very important, as difficult as those conversations are, they're super important. So I love that Candy is having them and showing them. Because yeah, those are going to be some hard conversations. It stinks that at the end they said they hadn't figured it out yet, because they need to get on that, because the longer you wait, the harder it is. And I think especially in a situation where you parent differently and have different ways of spending the money, then you absolutely want it in writing how you want, especially if it's like your daughter or your kids, how you want them taken care of. Like you want that in writing and signed ASAP. Otherwise, it's left up to your spouse. And if you don't agree with your spouse's parenting, like if something happened to Candy right now, it'd be like, well, whatever he says is going to happen with Riley and everything. Like, so you need to have those trusts. And I think that it's also great, especially just as a culture, as a Black society, we're talking more about like building generational wealth and, getting those things together. But it's not just about the income coming in. It's like, how are you taking care of it once you received it? Like, do you know about investment? Are you doing stocks? Are you doing real estate investment? Are you making a trust to, like, generational wealth means you have to protect your wealth for the next generation. It can't just be sitting in your bank and you hope it trickles to them. So I like that they're having those conversations about how to handle those things, because we're not really taught those things. But when you go past like nouveau rich of white culture into like white culture where they actually have generational wealth, they are taught those things. They know all about trust. They know how to buy things on like the DL and how to put it under the trust and how to like avoid doing taxes. It's shady.
They
but
know
that's
the game.
And that's why.
Yeah.
And we need to learn the game, but we're all told like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and work harder and you'll do it too. And what they're not telling you about like the shady things that they do
to
get it, to keep it. And I mean, not even necessarily shady, like some of it's just like real life, like how someone, if like, I feel like a lot of times we also with our kids have, and we talked about this on, I feel like, was it Khera? No, I think it was Al. We talked about it on one of the episodes of Bold Black and Addicted to Bravo. We talked about generational wealth, is Black and bougie. And we talked about how we often are like, oh, well, the kid needs to go and earn it for themselves and make, like, even if the parent has been successful. But if you look at like really wealthy white families, like it's not like that. It's like, hey, my son needs a job, like, can they intern for you and work their way up there? Like they very much hook each other up, and that's how they continue to rise. And we need to do that with each other instead of being like, oh, well, figure it out yourself. And even like the business people, they're meeting on the golf course and settling deals. Like we should be like, if you are blessed to be in a situation where there's like two Black CEOs, like talk to each other before you merge with a deal. Like, do those things because that's what they're doing and that's why they're successful. And I just wish we had more of that, you know? Something else with Kandi is her fight with Marlo. First of all, I love that it was resolved with the chicken in the airport for a little while. That was hilarious.
She loves to eat. She loves to eat.
She does.
And I love that.
That pissed me off.
Did you say pissed you off?
It pissed me off.
It cracked me up. But what I love too about Kandi is that she holds Marlo to her, I don't know how exactly to phrase it, but like she doesn't take her childhood trauma crap. Like childhood trauma is very much a real thing. It very much impacts it, and you can see how it's impacted Marlo. However, when you're in your 40s or 50s, you don't get to still excuse every bad behavior as like, whoa, my childhood trauma. Like, girl, get therapy, like try to work past it. And like, as Kandi said, like we've had issues in the past. She said it's her trauma. I forgave her. We try to work past it. And then she just does it again. And you can't keep having people, to me, like that in your life if they're not making an effort to change. At some point, you have to say it's your sanity or mine, and I'm picking mine, so goodbye. So I totally got her cutting off Marlo and not wanting to deal with the Marlo of it anymore. But how do you guys feel about that interaction, and also about how Marlo uses her childhood trauma to excuse everything?
I guess I felt like Marlo's not taking into account that many of the cast may have childhood trauma too. So I feel like even Kandi could say she has childhood trauma. She hasn't always been wealthy. She obviously has issues with her mother that have gone on from her childhood to now.
Her brother passed away.
Yeah, her brother passed away. Things with the money, financial, when Kandi was becoming the celebrity she was, and how her mother handled things. So I'm just saying, multiple people on the cast can identify, even Kenya has childhood trauma. So multiple of them can identify with that too, and they don't use that to absolve them from their bad behavior. So I totally felt for Kandi, because I felt like Marlo kept coming after her. And it's like, Candy's like, I'm dealing with this from my family, and we're not even family. You're talking about I'm not being there for you. Like, I got lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kandi is right to establish boundaries, definitely. But I do feel like with Marlo's childhood trauma, obviously it can't be an excuse forever. But I think in her mind and the way that she set up her life as a survival, and just basically her whole goal was to have money and to have nice clothes, and she didn't want to have kids because she didn't want to repeat that. I think getting the boys really triggered her childhood trauma. So, and she didn't expect to have kids. She blocked that off in her life to protect herself, and then to bring them in unexpectedly, it's basically taken the top off the can of trauma, and she's just really spiraling. And I do hope that she continues with therapy or whatever to get help so she can, improve, because she can be very toxic and scary.
Yeah, and it's hard when the kids are thrown in like that. Another shameless plug, on another episode, we talk about family ties, and we talk about across Bravo how different people have had to add family members where they take care of them. And we talk about Marlo and the boys, because it is, like I was just saying here with you guys, like I don't have kids for a reason. So if something were to happen to like my sibling, my sister, I would obviously take in her boys because I love my sister, I love the boys. But again, I don't have kids for a reason. So it really would mess with me, and it would be difficult for me. And I don't know that, I don't want to say that, I don't think resentment is the word, but it would definitely be one of those like, man, I worked so hard to create this life for myself exactly how I wanted it, and now it's on its head.
That's fair.
I can see. That's fair. I could see that, but I wish she wouldn't have brought it onto TV. And that's just my opinion. I just feel like, yes, she definitely could feel that way, but those children didn't sign up to be on this show. They shouldn't have been able to be showcased like that. She could have talked about it, but they were showcased like that. They have to interact with their friends. It just creates a toxic relationship for them. Like, definitely get the help that you need to deal with that, because that is wrong. But putting them on this show and portraying all of that, that doesn't help your relationship with them, especially now with the way that social media and things are out there. that, you know, they have to deal with this in real time in their real life. And it's hard to see that for them.
Mhm.
So I totally get that, but I wish you wouldn't have used it as a storyline.
Mm, I agree.
I think, I think, um, I think at the very least, I hope, you know, what she experienced throughout the season or throughout the months that they were filming and documenting her journey. I hope, if anything, she gets from it is that she needs to seek out, and she has the resources to seek out help to be able to parent these children and raise these children in the best way possible. Because, to her point, she did, you know, create a life for herself that she really loves, and she does have, you know, the money to do whatever it is that she wants to do, which of course was like the most important thing to her, which I wouldn't be surprised if that also stemmed from childhood trauma, where she wants to be able to be financially secure enough to have a certain level of stability where no matter what happens, like, she's not like caught off guard by anything. So
Yeah.
she can afford to like maintain her life and keep it the way she wants to keep it. So I definitely agree that taking in the boys is probably something that is super triggering for her. But there is a point where, like, your excuses have to stop being about what you've been through. Like, because at some point it's not about what you've been through. You know, it's like you went through that. It's unfortunate. You know, we could all say that we've gone through things, but, you know, to keep saying, well, like, you know, I had this, or like I did that. It's like, it's not about that anymore though, because you're aware that it happened. You've recognized that it happened. It was an awful thing that happened, or several things were awful that happened. But what are you doing about it to be able to move forward and to be able to kind of free yourself of the hurt and the pain from whatever it is that you went through? Because you can't just keep using that as an excuse and think people are just going to consistently offer you sympathy, or they might offer you sympathy like Candy is, but from a distance, where it's like, you don't get to come into my space anymore because you do it too much. Like you, like Kalyndee said, you know, you are toxic. So like, you need to stay over there, and like, it's not, you know, we're not going to have this interaction or this type of closeness anymore.
It's so
So
interesting to me that people like talk about boundaries all the time and honoring your boundaries, but like the minute someone actually honors their boundaries, like people get real
it's a
upset.
problem.
It's like, you
Mhm.
don't, like, how much do we tell kids, like, you don't have to be friends with everybody. I would just be cordial. But then, and I get part of it, you're on the show and you should get along, but it's like, it's okay to say we're not friends. Like, we're cool when we see each other, and that's that. And it's okay for me to have my boundaries that I just don't, your type of person does not mesh with my type of person. But people
Mhm.
really have a problem accepting that.
We see each other.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yes.
I think
Exactly.
Candy kept it 100 with her too. Like, I don't think she tried. I thought she did. I mean, I just thought she was very honest with her in every kind of interaction they had, especially when they were talking about the children. And Candy has real world experience with this. So I appreciated Candy coming at it from a perspective of really trying to like get Marlo in a space where she understood what she had taken on. Right. And what that really looked like, and that she probably needed to, like we've all said on this.
And I don't get how Marlo didn't see how getting on Drew's husband, and Lord knows I don't like Drew's husband, but in that particular situation, like, how do you not see that what you're trying to get on him about is just as bad as your thing? Your thing might actually be worse because you told him to get that worse. Like, but you're mad at other people for making the correlation. But it's like, then don't get mad at other people. A quote my mom always said that I grew up remembering is like, every time you point a finger, 3 point back at you. For me, that was definitely the situation. She's pointing fingers at him, but like, look at what's going on, you know, behind her doors.
I think she lacks self-awareness to a certain degree, because then when somebody does identify what it is that she did, it's, well, I grew up XYZ.
Right. But if she acknowledges that, then is that lacking self-awareness?
True.
I think so, because it's like, in the moment you're not actually registering your actions, your behavior, and then when somebody identifies it for you, you're like, oh, well, you know, the reason I did that is because blah blah blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, because if you in my opinion, it's like, if you know that that's what you've experienced, wouldn't you want to be a little bit more intentional about what you're doing today, or about what you're doing right now as it relates to this particular situation, if you know that's the experience that you
Right.
come
Like,
from.
you know, you say
if you have the
awful
tools
things
for
when
that.
you're angry. Like if you know you say awful things when you're angry, then put in your mind when you're angry, you're gonna count to 10. Like little things like that, like little ways to sort of temper the damage that you do. But it doesn't seem like she's trying at all. She just does what she wants.
But that's why,
oh my bad.
and that's why I think what I was saying is like I hope at least if anything, now that she's like a housewife, maybe this journey of the season, she can watch it back and recognize, oh, I don't actually have certain skills or I don't have the tools for XYZ. I have the money though, so let me go, get help for these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, is even with the boys, it's like, you can get a nanny. I know they're older, but you just like, if it's overwhelming for you, like you have the resources. A lot of people don't have to get additional help.
And
Well,
I felt like I was
Oh,
going to
good.
say, and I felt like she should have tried to reach out to Sheree, because out of all the ladies she was reaching out to, they all had young children. And Sheree, her kids are grown now, but they were she had more recent time closer to that age range that for the kids that Marlo has. And she has a son who I think he's in his 20s. So he was a little bit closer to that age range if she wanted to ask about how to raise boys or how you're doing that, especially for that age range. Sheree would have been the best person for her to try to collaborate with or say, what do I need to do or how to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but I do like that like Sonia and her husband did that little like working on the cars with the boys. That was cute.
That was nice.
That was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. That was really
overall
nice.
I really liked this cast. Like I was saying before, like I don't think you need to like everybody in the cast to enjoy the cast. I think that, as we were mentioning, all casts, you have to have villains or a couple of villains of people, people that you don't love, but they help keep the story going. And you also need those like centered people. You need like at least one or two centered people who aren't going to be popping off all the time. That way it leaves room for everybody else to do their craziness. So I think that they've found a good mix of people in Atlanta right now, and I'm enjoying the cast. So I'm looking forward to next season. What about you guys?
Yeah.
I am. I want to see how they pick up where they left off in terms of, like for Sheree example, all of the online response to her website crashing and all that stuff. I want to see, how they move forward and just for everybody. I'm curious to see.
I feel like social media is starting to ruin Housewives a little bit though, because there's just so much happening on it. And maybe it's because we're in the social media world. Like maybe I would feel differently if I wasn't on the social media of the show and I only watched the show and just took away from that. But I think people who only watch the show see the show very differently than those of us who are like reading the blogs, reading the comments, reading the backs and forths, because it's a whole other thing. But it's very interesting. I kind of miss the days where they just got to do their blog post, say their paragraph about what they thought about the episode, and that was it. Like that was all. Those were the good.
It's a different world now.
Those days were great.
Yeah, the access we have to the information in between the seasons and what goes on, like in their lives, kind of before the taping starts. Again.
It's good and it's bad because they can really drag stuff out. Plus, they tease things, and then everyone comes up with like this whole like explanation of what's going to happen and blah blah blah, and then you get to the episode, and it's not even
let down
how they teased it. So,
yeah,
or they cut out the footage.
Yeah, and I think they self-correct based on social media feedback too.
They do, which is interesting. And I actually am interested to see how that will play out with Beverly Hills, because they filmed a reunion before the last 3 episodes. So they're filming that reunion based on because every time when we watch stuff with reunions, it's them watching it for the first, it's them living it, then them watching it themselves, then them watching it with the viewers and the viewers' feedback. Then they're going into reunion with all of that. With this case, it's just what happened and then their individual watching of what happened. So they don't have all of the public's opinions and how that impacts it. So I think it'll be interesting with the reunion to see how they act. Thank you all so much for joining me to talk about Atlanta. It was a good season. I can't wait for the next one. There's a few shows ending right now, so there'll be a few bonus episodes. But thank you for chatting with me, and thank you those who have watched. Hope you will continue to watch or listen. You might just be listening to this. But come back because we love talking Bravo.
Thanks so much.
Baby, you just kick your feet up while I kick back. I roll one with you by my side.